It's time for another Dice Tower review with Z Garcia.
Hey folks, today I'm taking a look at Flash Duel 2nd edition revised printing, which is a lot of revisions I guess, but that's probably good. In this game you are going to typically be going head to head with another player in a Street Fighter sort of game done with cards. The game has quite a few modes of play actually, it has quite a few characters, and you are again fighting and trying to come out on top. I'm going to give you a brief overview of some of what's in this game. I will not be showing you everything or anything like that, but just give you an idea of what's in here to see if it's something you might like, and then I'll tell you what I thought of it, okay? So here we go. In this simple overview, I'm going to be showing you what the game calls the 1 versus 1 full game, but be aware there are several ways of playing the game that I'm not going to be going into. For example, here we have simple 1 versus 1 mode, the full mode, which is what I'll be looking at, the custom clockwork mode, which means you get to customize the cards you'll be using. They do not all three have to come from the same character. You play solitaire. You can do a team battle. You can play up against the big baddie there, so several people against one. Another way to do that. And each mode is represented in here with lots of details, lots of text. There's even for the solo mode achievements, just like in a video game, which you can unlock. And that's very apt because the game is trying to simulate a video game of sorts, a sort of a fighting game. And you are going to be using these characters, of which there are a whole bunch of these little characters. You're going to be using one of them to go up against your opponent or opponents. But again, I'm going to be showing you 1 versus 1 here. So let's get started with that. You have the board here, which is the arena. Each player gets a character. And we're going to be using these two characters for this game. I just drew them out of this stack, which has cards for everybody in the game, alright? And so let me find them here. We have this character, big rock guy, Garris Rook. And on the other side we have, what's his name here? Quins. So we're going to put him over there. And then each player has 3 special cards that they'll be able to use during the match, 1 time each. And only 1 per round as well. You are quite simply using these tokens here to score 3 hits on your opponent. And if you're the first to 3, then you win the whole game. The cards here, when you trigger them, you flip them face down. And once you do a hit, then you get them all back. And you reset and start again, alright? This deck of cards is the deck you'll be using to actually go up against your opponent. It has cards 1 through 5 in many copies of those. So at the beginning of the game, we're going to shuffle these up. We're going to remove 5 because the game says you do that. And then each player gets 5. And you're ready to begin. And we don't need these anymore, so I'm going to move them aside. We'll put the deck out here, and you're good to go. So, on your turn, you are going to do 1 of 4 possible actions. You are going to be able to move, which means you take a card, you discard that card, and you move that many spaces on the track. You can actually move forward or backwards away from your opponent if you'd like. You can push your opponent, and that is, if you are right next to them, then you can play a card and push them that many spaces away from you. You can attack them, which means you count how many spaces you are away from them, and you play a card which is that many spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is where they are. I'm attacking them with a 5. The opponent, if they do not block me, will take a hit. I'll score 1 of these, and that's it for this round. We set up and go again. But they can block me by playing a matching card. Be aware you are allowed to play multiple copies of the same card, which makes it harder for your opponent to block. And so if this player here had 2 5s, then the opponent they are attacking would need to discard 2 5s to stop the whole attack. If not, again, a point is scored. And then the last option is sort of a combination move and attack, which the game calls a dashing strike, which is quite simply you play a card to move, 1, 2, and then you play a card to attack, or multiple cards to attack, 1, 2, 3. The thing about this is the opponent has two ways of getting out of that one. They can block by discarding a 3, or they can simply retreat, meaning they don't have the ability to block and they just play a card and back off. That does mean that next round they're up, they are not taking any actions, they're just going to replenish their hand. So there is that. If you have to back off that way, then there is a penalty that's built into that. But that's basically it. Each player starts on their own side of the board. You have your special abilities, which tell you here when you need them. So for example, this character here has this Windmill Crusher, says if you attack with 1s, then your 1 attack is unblockable. He's right up against them. He's made out of rock. You can figure that one out. This one over here says your dashing strike using 1s to strike, not to move, but the strike part. Your opponent cannot retreat. They have to block. If they cannot block, they may not retreat. And so each character, again, has these 3 cards that make them unique. This deck is the same. You draw from it, same deck. But each character has the special cards that make them specific, and it gives your character here some specific flavor to the game. So that's pretty much it. Playing cards to move, playing cards to push the other person back. You can play cards to attack, or you can play cards to do a dashing strike. And if your opponent cannot respond to an attack or a dashing strike, you score a point. First to 3 points is the winner of the game. I tend to enjoy this kind of game, this dual head-to-head fighting, as long as it's not too convoluted. I don't like the games to get bogged down in rules, minutia, and exceptions to rules. If this happens, then this happens. And this one does not do that. It moves along at a nice clip. It's a quick game. Most of the cards, as you saw, are 1s through 5s. And then each character has their 3 little special cards, and that's it. Of course, there's all the other modes that I did not show you. And the game does give you a lot of room there to explore for the player if you want to delve into 1 versus many, or solitaire, which I do like the solitaire mode, or 2-on-2. There's a lot here to delve into. I myself prefer the mode I showed you, and I like to keep my character cards intact with that character as opposed to break them up, because it gives me the best flavor, I guess. I like to identify with that one character. That's who I am, going up against whoever you are with your 3 special abilities. Game is quick, like I said. I like the flavor of each character, but it doesn't bog down the whole experience, and that's my favorite thing about it. Now, the game's nothing to write home about either. It's not highly strategic or anything like that. It's a simple little filler with some tactics going on. But if that's the kind of duel game you're looking for, then I think this could fit the bill. And the characters make the game come across as a nice thematic package. It really does feel like a Street Fighter sort of game, And you'll eventually try a few characters. You'll find the one you like. You'll keep using them like you do in those fighting games. And so I like that about it. So that's Flash Duel. Look into it if you are looking for a simple filler in that head-to-head genre. And I think you're going to enjoy it. So there you have it. Flash Duel 2nd edition.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.